Oh, okay.
Okay.
So this is being recorded?
Yes, just in case we have some folks that.
That would be me. I have to leave pretty soon. Unfortunately, I forgot today is Memorial Day, so.
It is. It is. Yeah, and Eleanor is not here today. She normally is my technology expert, so hopefully I don't mess it up. Let me just make sure I don't have anyone over here waiting for me. All right, we're pretty good. We'll just give it a couple of minutes. Yeah, normally I will forget to record, and there will always be someone who will say, I wanted to come to that. Did you record it? And the answer will be, I meant to.
I'm gonna
Yay.
go check on something real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. We'll just give it a minute and we'll start pretty much at 4 o'clock. So nice of you all to join us on a holiday. Make sure I've got everyone in. So I know we've got some people we've seen before, and that's good. And if you're new to us, my name is Becky Bees. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Roland Park Place. Dave Higgins is also here today. Give us a wave, Dave.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
We're the skeleton crew in the office today. So thanks for joining us. If you don't mind, we're a pretty informal kind of Zoom atmosphere here. So try to mute while you're not talking, but otherwise just unmute and interrupt me. And that's probably the best way to get my attention. And feel free to ask questions. You can ask them as we go. You can save them to the end. And I don't have a ton of slides, so I'm going to explain some things. And if you interrupt me and I think I'm getting to it, I'll let you know I'm getting to that. But otherwise, just interrupt. And this is really for you to get your questions answered as best you can. We'll talk about some contracts today. And then I think probably next month, he hasn't accepted my invitation yet, but I'm inviting our Vice President of Operations to join us for next month's Zoom so he can talk a little bit about services and things we provide and what's included. And I think he'll be a great person to answer some questions for you as well. So it is 4:01. Let's see if I can share my screen. Yeah. All right. Well, you can see my friend there. So we're going to talk a little bit about contract types. I want to start by just going over really some of the options that are out there. These aren't all necessarily the options that are offered at Roland Park Place, but just so you have an understanding, if people talk about different contract types for senior living, you'll have a sense of what they are talking about. So it really, the original type here is the type A, which is known as a LifeCare contract. And essentially what that means is that you've got a prepayment and or sort of steady fee for your future long-term care expenses. So type A is known as LifeCare because it really is keeping that fee steady. So you have a known sense of what those are going to look like, and you're not paying a higher fee for higher levels of care. And I'll get into more detail in these in a little bit. A type B, of which I'm really not aware of any of these in Maryland, but they do exist in the world, and you'll often hear us talk about a type A or a type C. So a natural question is, well, what is a type B? There is a type B, and typically what that means is that you have generally the type B means that you have some prepaid medical long-term care expense for a set period of time. So it's similar sometimes to like a long-term care insurance policy, perhaps, that will say you have, maybe you have 2 years of long-term care time in the healthcare center without your fee changing to a market rate. So maybe it's steady for a certain amount of time. So that would be a type B agreement. And like I said, I'm not aware of any communities nearby that have that, or in Maryland that offer that. Most are a type A or a type C or rental. So a type C, which we added in last year, in addition to our type A, also known as a fee for service contract, meaning that, you know, you're just paying for what you're using. You're not really prepaying for long-term care. So as your needs change, if you need assisted living, if you need skilled nursing, you're going to pay whatever the market rate is for that care or those settings. You really are just getting priority access over somebody who does not already live at the community. And then just straightforward rental, that would be community like Springwell in Mount Washington, or some of the Brightview communities, where most of the rental would have, often there's an independent living element, assisted living, maybe memory care, typically not a skilled nursing attached to that. And those generally don't have an entrance fee beyond, you know, maybe a couple of months of your rent. And so that would be considered a rental option. You sign a lease every year. So Roland Park Place offers a LifeCare type A agreement. For us, there are 3 options on the accommodation fee in terms of refundability. So for the traditional accommodation fee, you would pay that amount up front. The amount that is refundable to you or to your estate would decline over a 60-month period. So once you're at Roland Park Place more than 5 years, there would not be any refund on the traditional accommodation fee. And that's the lowest cost option on the accommodation fee to come into Roland Park Place. And specifically how that works is that when you, upon your occupancy date, so when your accommodation fee is due and your monthly service fees begin, 4% of the accommodation fee that you paid is not refundable. And then every month that you live at Roland Park Place, another 1.6% of your accommodation fee is not refundable. So ultimately, when you get to the 60th month, none of that's refundable. So when you consider the traditional accommodation fee, you want to look at that as essentially a non-refundable contract, because hopefully you're planning to be here more than 5 years. If you're here less than 5 years, you're going to get some of that back. So hopefully that's not your plan, to be here less than 5 years. We have always, not always, but for a very long time, also offered a 90% refundable contract. And that is, you pay your accommodation fee. It is higher than the traditional accommodation fee, but the amount that is refundable to you is 90% of the amount that you paid. And the timing of that is really on either of these what makes a difference, in that when you have left Roland Park Place, and whether that's from independent living, assisted living, skilled nursing, and the last apartment you occupied in independent living has been reoccupied, then you or your estate would get back 90% of the accommodation fee that you paid. And so it's the later of those 2 things that happen. Doesn't affect the amount, but affects the timing. Same would be true for the traditional declining balance. If you were only here for 2 years, then the amount is determined by when you leave. The timing of when that is paid is based on the later of those two things to happen. You've left the building and your last apartment in independent living has been reoccupied. Additionally, this year we are adding in, starting July 1, a 50% refundable accommodation fee contract under the LifeCare agreement. So that's going to be in between. So you'll get 50% of the accommodation fee paid back. Any questions on that so far? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, so there are two people move in.
Mm-hmm.
One person dies 3 years in. One person dies 23 years in.
Mm-hmm.
How does what you just said work in those situations?
So you would be on the residence and care agreement together.
Mhm.
So it would be when the last person of the couple leaves the building
Okay,
and your apartment's reoccupied. Yeah.
got it. Okay.
Okay. So in addition to the accommodation fee, you're paying a monthly service fee for an individual, and I'm going to go into a little more detail of this in a minute. For an individual, your independent living monthly fee would be the same fee that you pay in assisted living or skilled nursing under the LifeCare agreement, and I'm gonna be more specific about that in a moment. And the second person, I'm going to talk to you about that as well. So under the type C agreement, we only offer the 90% refundable accommodation fee contract. And under the type C agreement, and I'll go over we'll look at them side by side. Under the type C agreement, the monthly service fee you pay in independent living is lower than it would be for the first person for LifeCare agreement. And then as you move to a different level of service, you're paying whatever the market rate is at that level. And I can go over kind of where we are today. And by today, I mean starting July 1. In case any of you want to occupy before that, I can give you those fees that we still have. But these are we're going to talk about the fees that start in about a month. So just kind of looking at these side by side for the first person. So LifeCare contract under the first person, like I said, that monthly fee is the same for the first person, and the first person is always the last person in the independent living apartment for a couple. So the first person it's the last apartment you lived in independent living. If you move to memory care, assisted living, the fee you were paying in that apartment, let's say you're in a Canterbury, for example, let's just say floor plan. The monthly fee you paid in that Canterbury is the monthly fee you're going to pay in memory care assisted living, is the same monthly service fee you're going to pay in the residential care assisted living, is the same monthly service fee you're going to pay in the healthcare center. So regardless of where you move throughout the building based on your care needs, for the first person, your monthly service fee is going to stay the same. Now for the first person under a type C fee for service agreement, the monthly fee is the market rate at each level. So the monthly fee that you pay in independent living is, so let's say it's a Canterbury, it's going to be a lower monthly service fee on that Canterbury than it is for a LifeCare contract. But if you need to move to memory care, that fee will be about $9,000 a month. If you move to residential care, assisted living, it depends on the apartment size that you move to. The 1 bedroom is $8,480. The 1 bedroom den is $9,010, and the 2 bedroom is $10,070. First person fee currently for those market rates. the healthcare center currently $470 a day. So starting July 1. And just to remind you that, as I say, the fee doesn't increase with a level change in a level of service. The fee does increase every July 1. We typically have a cost of living increase, and we give the people that work here a raise, and we pay more for their health insurance and all that kind of stuff. So you can expect a typical increase, and those tend to be across the board, not based on your specific situation. So then when we get to the second person, under the LifeCare agreement, the second person fee does change some with a level of service change. So in independent living, the second person fee is $11.40. If there's still a resident, the first person is paying whatever that first person fee is for the apartment. The second person goes to the memory care assisted living or to the healthcare center for nursing. That second person fee changes from $11.40 to just under $4,000. And in the assisted living under residential care, it depends on sort of there are two scenarios there. So the residential care assisted living are the apartments in assisted living. And so either a couple will move. Let me start by saying this. It's very uncommon for one resident to be in independent living and their spouse to be in residential care assisted living in those two separate apartments. When that does happen, they pay two first person fees. But I've been here 17 and a half years. I've only seen that happen once. And because typically in that apartment style assisted living, you're able to stay in independent living together rather than having one move to the assisted living, unless the spouse needs either memory care or long-term care. But if a couple moves together, let's say they're in their Canterbury 2-bedroom apartment and they move to a 2-bedroom apartment in residential care, if both of those residents need assisted living services, then the first person fee is the fee associated with, say, the Canterbury or whatever apartment they came from. And the second person fee is $2,515. If they're moving together to residential care because only one of them really needs assisted living services, but the spouse is not a caregiver, that's okay. You can move together and that second person fee remains $11.40 because that second person isn't getting assisted living services. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the type C agreement, it's really the same as the first person. You're treated individually, and if you move, wherever you move, you're paying that market rate fee. So if the second person goes to memory care assisted living, it's $9,000. If they go to the residential care assisted living, it's $8,480 to $10,070, depending on which apartment they move to, and for healthcare center, that's $470 a day for that individual. And again, those fees will increase. Does that, anyone have any questions on that? All right. Either you're really good or I am.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, just wondering, making sure.
Okay, so this may be hard to see, and let me know. Let me see if I can bump it up a little bit, but and I have these if there are any specific apartments you want to sort of pull up and compare. But this one is an example of the Hawthorne, which is, you know, a 2-bedroom in our expansion around 1,300 square feet. So it just will kind of give you, for example, the accommodation fee for the first person under the traditional plan would be $562,600. The second person fee would be $36,000, and that's kind of, you'll see that that's flat all the way across. And so the total for a couple, it would be $598, $600. Then the monthly fee for the first person, $8,003, second person, $1,140. So the total would be $9,143. And then what we've kind of done is be able to kind of move it out a little bit to see if one person is in another level of care, what your total might be under each of those contract types. Does anyone want me to kind of go into detail about this? I can probably pull it up on something I can expand a little. But it's going to give you the comparison to see what your total accommodation fee might be under different refundability options under the LifeCare versus the Type C, which is sort of that pink all the way at the end, and can give you what in today's dollars what your monthly fees may be if you need higher levels of care. Would you like me to pull it up on a different screen and try and zoom it, or would anyone like a copy?
Copy.
Yeah.
A copy. What I can do, I can send it out as an attachment after the Zoom. I can just send you all the slides if you want.
Please.
Okay, we'll do that. I'll just send it to everybody and then you have it. And then if there are any that you'd like this is the Hawthorne. If you wanted me to put this together with an individual, a couple on any other contract types, I'm happy to do that because it does help kind of compare a little bit what you're looking at. Sort of all the scenarios. Yes, sir.
No, it takes a little time to sort of take it in, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, why don't I do this? I'll email it to everyone who's attending, and then you can look at it and then just let us know if you have questions or if there are other ones you want to see. Because it really does just, and it's not completely comprehensive. Like there may be some other scenario that's not on here if one's in independent, one's in, and one's in residential care, which like I said, is not as common. Does anyone need an explanation of the different levels? What would be memory care? What would be residential care? Okay. So
I did have one question on this slide.
Yeah.
The tradition was where it declines to 0 over 60 months, correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I do have, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Question. What do you consider skilled nursing for a temporary period of time? For example, if you had a major surgery and you needed some care, how's that handled? Do you stay in your independent living?
No. So if you had, yeah, so there are certainly temporary stays in the healthcare center. These fees would be more related to a permanent move to the healthcare center. Yeah. So if you just, were getting a new knee or something and you needed to do some inpatient, you would do that and then you'd go back to your apartment. And so that's a typically 90-day, and actually Medicare would cover that difference.
Okay.
So you would continue to pay your monthly
So
service.
it's 90 days though. I mean, you get 90 days, you don't lose your apartment, your original apartment or something.
Right. And so we have rehab on site, with all those things. If we think that you're going back to your apartment, then really nothing changes until we get you back to your apartment. If something should happen and you're not going back to your apartment and you're going to be staying permanently in the healthcare center, that's when these fees would change especially for the second person. If you're an individual, it doesn't matter if you're temporary, if you're permanent, that it's just a matter of whether or not you retain the apartment, but your fee would stay the same as for an individual. Under the LifeCare.
Thanks.
You bet.
This is Roberta. I had a question. Could you send one of just the Hadley and one person, just so I'm looking at more than I need to look at there with two people. So just as a example for one person.
You bet. Absolutely.
So I understand on the Type C, I understand what you're saying about if additional care is needed, you pay the market rate. What about the unit itself? does that just go up the 3 to 5%, or does that change to market rate every year?
And that would just go up to 3 to 5%.
Okay.
Yeah, so as long as you're in your, as long as you're in your independent living apartment, you know, you get all the services and amenities that go with that. If you have a permanent move to a higher level of care, you give up that apartment and you pay the new rate for whatever level you're looking at. And so for a lot of people, if they have a long-term care insurance policy that's going to cover that, then the type C makes more sense for a lot of people for that. Though I will say, you can also use long-term care insurance under the type A agreement to reduce your expenses as you move through the continuum. It depends on your policy.
I have a question about the type of care you might receive in your apartment versus the need to move to a residential assisted living type apartment. Suppose you just need some assistance, you perhaps mobility issues, maybe with just bathing or getting up, and that's all you need. Can you receive that service in your apartment, or do you need to go to another facility?
Yeah, so we actually have something we call the PAL program, and that is a fee for service offering. It is not a licensed home health agency, so at this time it would not be reimbursable through your long-term care insurance if you use our PAL program, but you can hire PAL on a half-hour or hourly basis to help with just those things that you need help with. For example, if you just need help, you know, if you need someone there while you're taking a shower, you know, you'd pay $27 an hour, but you don't need them for more than an hour, right? So, whereas if you're hiring someone, a home health agency, you probably have to pay for 4 hours or something like that minimum. So it does allow you to stay in your apartment longer. There are a lot of people who start maybe by just saying, okay, I need medication management. I need someone to come fill my pill boxes, or I need reminders, that sort of thing. But that would not, so that would kind of keep you there a little bit longer. What we look for is for someone moving in to not need those services when they move in. But yes, as you're there and you say, you know what, I don't need assisted living, I just need, you know, a few hours a week, then absolutely you can hire the PAL service to do that.
But actually, if you need more help, then you would probably want to go to and you have long-term care insurance, you probably want to use a home health agency because it would be reimbursed.
Right. That's up to you and depends on your policy. So if you want to stay in your apartment and just hire someone, hire home health to come in, then you can absolutely do that. And your long-term care insurance covers that, then you likely just stay in your apartment and have that brought to you.
If I could ask, I know that type C is new. Do you have people who have taken advantage of that option?
A few, yeah.
Okay.
I think probably 3 or 4 in the last year.
Okay.
Not a lot, but a few, yeah.
No, it would make sense. To me, it would make sense only for people who have a policy that
Yes.
either that or have $10 million or more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of risk to say, yeah, probably not. I'm not going to need that. And, you know, if you're thinking that, you're probably not on this call. But yes, that is if you need something like that. The other scenario I sometimes will use is that, you know, I grew up in New Jersey. My sister's in Richmond, Virginia. My parents are in South Carolina. I would love for them to be in a community. I'd love for them to be in a community with their friends while they're enjoying that. If the time came that they needed assisted living or long-term care, I would likely be moving them closer to my sister or myself. And so it may not make sense for them in their community to take advantage of that LifeCare when they probably would not be there when it came time to use it. So that's another scenario. I have not gotten them to a community yet though, so I'll keep you posted. Type A is better than I would take it. We're getting there. But yeah, that's another scenario. If you don't think you're going to be in the community when you need that level of service, you don't want to be prepaying for it. Though there is that tax benefit to that, even if you don't use it. So for some people that makes it.
You can talk about that a little bit later, the tax benefit a little later.
Yeah, so the tax benefit, and I will preface, as I always do, by saying I am not a tax professional. So definitely talk to your tax professional about whether or not you can take advantage of this. But essentially, a portion of your accommodation fee the year you move in, as well as under the LifeCare contract, as well as a portion of your monthly service fee every month for each person is considered a prepaid medical expense. So you'll get a letter from our finance office saying, you know, what we spent in the healthcare center taking care of people. And so the IRS will say, this is something, if you itemize your medical expenses, this is considered prepaid medical. And so as it gets above 10% of your, I think it's 10% now, of your gross adjusted income, then you may be able to take a substantial deduction for prepaid medical. For some people, it is very meaningful and has a big impact. For some people, it doesn't mean anything. So you really have to look at your own situation and talk to your tax advisor. But essentially, it boils down to a prepaid medical expense. And so it has been for the traditional about 50% of the accommodation fee. And then so on the 90% refundable, it's 5% because it's only, you know, on the amount you're not going to get back. And then for the monthly, it's been about $2,500 per month per person of your monthly service fee that you can consider to be a prepaid medical expense. So it doesn't reduce your fees, but it does give you perhaps a bigger tax deduction.
Sure.
That makes sense? Anyone have questions on that? Phew, good. That's all I can say about that. So I think I talked about this a little bit, but you know, I just wanted to share some of the reasons people say when we sit down and talk to them and they ultimately make a decision about the type of contract they're going to take. It's really up to you. We're happy for you to move to Roland Park Place with under whatever agreement makes the most sense for you, for your family, for your situation. So some people take the traditional because they don't have anyone they're leaving that refund to. If they don't have children, it's not important to them to leave that behind. They will take the traditional for that reason. Some will take it for the tax benefit because that means a lot to them. It is the least expensive option as well. So if you're looking to qualify financially, sometimes you're not going to qualify for the refundable option, depending on your situation. Some people will look at that and say, okay, the difference between the traditional and the refundable, I'm going to keep that in my account and earn interest on it instead of Roland Park Place earning interest on it. So that's, again, depends on your situation. And I talked a little bit about the timing of the refund. So the refundable, any refund that comes back is based on the timing of the resale of the apartment and or when you've left the building. Sometimes people take the 90% because they look at it and say, I can't see plunking down that chunk of money and not having it come back to my heirs. And sometimes their heirs are the ones putting that money down and then they get it back later on. So we've seen that happen as well. So talk to your kids about that. And then new this year, starting July the 1st, we are offering the 50% refundable. So that's in between. So I don't know why people do or don't take it because no one's had a chance to take it yet. So that'll be something that maybe will kind of split the difference a little for folks. And then the fee for service, people take the type C because that's the only one we offer under the type C agreement.
So it says manages risk by having refund to draw down on. So is there actually a refund? In other words, can you spend part of the?
So technically you could, right? So, and part of, you know, I will be honest that our board was apprehensive about adding the type C agreement, because, you know, the type C agreement, as we said, is saying, okay, I as a resident, I'm going to take on the risk of, you know, those more expensive fees later on.
Sure.
And so, you know, just to be more careful in being able to approve people and say, okay, if for some reason you stop paying on your long-term care insurance policy, or, you know, something happens and you can't pay that, then we at least have the amount that's refundable due to you to draw down your monthly fees before you're really out of money.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a buffer, and I think, you know, certainly as people take that type C contract and we, you know, have some time with it. But I'll tell you, the board at one point said, well, maybe we should cap the number of type C contracts that we should take. I think that, you know, there's just a fear of taking on that risk and having folks not be able to sustain that. So that's kind of where that comes from. It's more about managing Roland Park Place's risk than the individual residents, but as Roland Park Place really, as a nonprofit, just operates on behalf of the rest of the residents, that's kind of where that comes from. So,
Appreciate that.
so so we did have some incentives that either expired today or are expiring at the end of June on the expansion. So just something that you're aware of, if you are thinking that you know, you want to sell your house and move while you can get the most for that house, then for those who are selecting an apartment and putting down their deposit before the end of June and have their occupancy date, so accommodation fee due and their monthly fees start by September 30th. Then we are holding the accommodation fee increase. So that's a 4% increase from where it is today to where it will be July 1. So for those people who are thinking I'm ready, but maybe this fall, there is a good reason to go and select an apartment and put a deposit down. So my sales pitch portion.
Yeah.
Any questions or things that you want to hear about? Yes. Yes. Hold on, you're muted. You have to unmute for me. There you are.
Just explained is only available in the grand expansion, in the new building.
It's in both buildings.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
I have a question regarding period of time from acceptance of your contract to closing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I assume your fees began immediately as soon as you close, but what's that period of time?
So it's 90 days from when you
90
put your
days.
deposit down and reserve the apartment.
Right.
So yeah, so there's an application process.
Mhm.
And so you want to reserve your apartment, put your deposit down. You've got a medical approval, financial approval. Sometimes we do those things first if you're, you know, unclear as to whether or not, you know, if you, from a financial standpoint, you want to see, well, can I get approved up to a certain apartment under which different contract, and we can do that first sometimes before you select your apartment and put down a deposit, or medically, sometimes we'll do those assessments first. But you do both of those things. Sometimes we do it, kind of during those 90 days. But essentially, when you select your apartment and put down your 10% deposit, you've got 90 days for your occupancy.
Okay, and then during that time, if you have changes in any finishes,
Mhm.
it all happens within that 90-day period?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we'd like to have it all ready for you when you move in.
Yeah, totally. Okay, okay, that's great.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Well, actually, I had a couple of questions if we're getting toward, so the extra person fee,
Mhm.
is it the same for type A and type C?
Yeah, second person fee is the same for independent living, for the accommodation fee, second person fee, and the person monthly fee in independent living.
And I was thinking about the type A contract, which includes basically I'm just looking at the pricing difference, whether there should be a pricing difference between the extra person fee for people who have type A versus type C.
So there is a little bit of an increase in the higher levels for the second person under the type A. It's not as drastic as the type C.
I
but
see.
Go up a little bit for the second person.
Okay.
Glad you called. Give me Joni's address.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is there any tax benefit for the type Cs or for the monthly fee or not?
There's not, and that's because you're really not prepaying for the medical.
Okay.
But I'm assuming you get some, if you've got long-term care insurance, you probably get some tax benefit for having that, I would guess, maybe. I don't.
Well, it's just that it's under the 10%, so you don't really get it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I just wondered about the timing of, if you need the proceeds from your house sale to pay some or all of the remainder of the fee after the deposit. The remainder of the fee is due when you move in, is the day you move in, is that correct?
That's right.
And what flexibility do you have from the time you put your deposit down to when you need to move in?
Well, we have a lot of resources to help you, kind of get your house sold, and or, we have some bridge loan options. We have some, real estate experts that can talk to you about, what to ask for in your closing, things like that. So we typically don't see people who, if they're ready to move and ready to list their house and get it sold, we can usually work with you a little bit on the timing. The challenges we have are sometimes we have folks who are like, oh, I'm ready. And then 90 days later, they haven't started thinking about listing their house. So, so then we'll look at, well, we have some bridge loan options. We have some partners that we work with that can kind of help you bridge that difference. But most people, especially right now, tend to not have too much trouble getting the house sold and getting moved in the 90 days.
Yeah, we hope it continues for the people here.
Yes, we yeah, there are some good times and there are some bad times. I think, some of the trick is just, just kind of, we work with you through it every step of the way, and just kind of keep that communication open, and, we'll be flexible where we can, but right now it really is pretty straightforward. We're able to
Okay, thank you.
move in. Yep.
If we have questions, can we call you directly?
Of course.
Okay, great.
Yeah. My direct line is 410-243-8255. 5701.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. And certainly if you're working with Dave or Cindy or Jen, they can answer those questions too, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have. And I will send out the PowerPoint. And I'll also send out a Hadley example, which will be a good one, as a 1-bedroom in the original building, just to give you kind of another price point to be at. Any other questions for me? Feel free to email, call. We'll certainly follow up with you. If you haven't come to tour, please do that. We are down to 11 2-bedrooms in the expansion, and 5 1-bedrooms. So if that's something you like, don't wait too long. Those are going. And we've got typically on the smaller inventory up to 1,000 square feet in the original building. 1150, I think, is the largest we have available in the original. But still some good opportunities to be able to pick something out and move in. Enjoy the rest of your day. You have my permission to wear white.
Yes.
And hopefully, hopefully you'll join us next month and hear a little bit more about the operation side of things. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Where's my thing? Yeah. What did I do?
Let's see how to shut this
Usually
off.
there's a,
Oh, there it is.
Oh,